Speaking of Minneapolis, there's a mayoral candidate there, Omar Fateh, and this guy's been making a lot of headlines for his positions. He's running for mayor of Minneapolis, which is already run by a very far left woke guy, Jacob Fry, who was on his knees with his mask on.
This was the guy who took the knee at George Floyd's funeral, crying.
Yep. You got it. So he's being challenged by this Muslim man named Omar Fateh, who had the following to say to the constituents there in February of 2023. Here he is in Stot 16.
Heard them being called terrorists. We heard them being called drug dealers. We heard a lot of insults. We heard that they're a threat to our national security, and that's a flat-out lie. You want to know who the real threat is, Madam President? I'll give you a hint. They don't look like our chief author. They don't look like the folks up in the gallery. They don't look like the folks on the rotunda. They look like many of the members that sit in the front. And you don't have to take my word for it. According to DHS, Madam President, the greatest domestic threat facing the United States comes from, quote, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocate for the superiority of the white race, not our immigrants. We are safer and we're better off because of them.
This guy he's in the Minneapolis State Senate now. He actually referred to Somalia as home when he was running for office. Home. Okay, that's Minneapolis. I mean, a major American city. And they're not even as bad as Dearborn, Michigan, which is run by majority Muslims now. And where I'll just give you one more, Will. By the way, we're talking to Will Kingston, co-host of the Saturday 5 on GB News, about cultural non-assimilation by more radical Muslims in his country and ours. In Dearborn, Michigan, not far away, there was a Muslim mayor. There is a Muslim mayor there now. His name is Abdullah Hamoud, who told a local resident, a Christian minister named Ted Barnum, who was objecting to streets being named after a pro-terror Arab leader, that he needed to get out. Told the white Christian leader he should get out of Dearborn if he didn't like it. Listen to this soundbite here. My team will get it. I don't know which one number it is. I think it's 11. It's not 11.
Because you are a bigot, and you are a racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Unbelievable. Your thoughts, Will?
Well, the thing is, like, these are at the moment still, as a percentage of the entire population, small groups, but they have national consequences. Like, it's that sort of group in Dearborn, Michigan, was fundamentally the reason why Josh Shapiro wasn't the vice presidential candidate for the Democrats, and instead it was that absolute non-entity Tim Walz. It's because that the Democrats were scared of putting a Jew into that position because they were scared of losing votes from Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. These things aren't just isolated to these particular little cultural areas. If you think, well, look, I live in, a plush little part of Manhattan, this isn't going to affect me. There are national ramifications to all of this stuff. Again, both in the US and in the and in the UK. But the other thing that I would say about the I'm sorry, Megan, I've forgotten the name of the Somali candidate who was running to be mayor.
Omar Fateh in Minneapolis.
What Omar would say, and you would cop this every day, is, well, the people who are opposing me are just trying to promote division. Megyn Kelly, she is trying to divide us. Will Kingston on GB News, trying to divide us. Whenever you hear that expression from the left, what they say, people who are trying to divide us, what they mean is people who we disagree with. What he just said in that clip, I can't possibly think of something which would be a more divisive thing to say. And yet, the reason why they say this is because that there is one establishment narrative that they want to enforce, and if you do not go along with it, you are the divider. And because we are the kind and compassionate left, we're therefore have the moral authority to be able to run that narrative. So I think, across the board, if you are, I'm not even going to say on the right, if you're sensible, we need to push back against this division nonsense, because quite frankly, it is just a tool for left-wing people to say, go along with our story, or otherwise we are going to bully you, we are going to oppress you, we are going to censor you, we're going to shut you up.
No, and Islamicists, they don't want to live peacefully next door to you. They want to impose their way of life and their religion on you. It's completely antithetical to Western values. So it's not live and let live. We just want to move to America or the UK, which we think is beautiful and has, wonderful education systems. No, they actually want to change the way we are living. By the way, in his city, in Minneapolis, you've got, or in Minnesota, his state, it's 82,000 and change people of Somali descent are living in Minnesota right now. It's home to the largest Somali population in the United States. 58% of them were born in Somalia, so it's not like they're third generation. They were born in Somalia and came here relatively recently. 34% of them speak English less than very well. 40% are below the poverty line. 42% of those over 25 years old have less than a high school degree, and only 68% of working age Somali adults are employed. So you've got some, 1/3 just about, who are unemployed. So this is not exactly our best group. And why we'd want to be importing more of them remains a mystery, other than this multiculturalism lie that we just discussed. Here's just, now we're switching back and forth between Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Dearborn, Michigan. But let me go back to Dearborn, Michigan, where the mayor is really concerned about the Christian minister and his objection to naming the street after this guy. Here's what's happening on the streets of Dearborn, Michigan. This is just April of 2024, SOT 13.
Malcolm X said, and I quote, "We live in one of the rottenest countries that has ever existed on this earth. It's not Genocide Joe that has to go. It's the entire system that has to go. Any system that would allow such atrocities and such devilry to happen and would support it, such a system does not deserve to exist on God's earth." And so when these fools ask us if Israel has the right to exist, the chant "Death to Israel" has become the most logical chant shouted across the world today.
Death to Israel. By the way, here's just a peek at no, same city, Dearborn, Michigan, August, just this past August, a couple months ago, Salem news anchor narrating reports of some 40,000 Shia Muslims in the streets. Dearborn, Michigan, watch.
40,000 Muslims packed the streets in Dearborn, Michigan for a religious Aberdeen march, raising red flags on the increasing Islamic influence in America. Many are now pointing to calls that have been made by Muslims to take down America, saying their people are willing to fight and give their lives to bring America down. The event is being described as the largest Aberdeen procession in the United States. It's a Shia religious event observed primarily by Shia Muslims and celebrates the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of their prophet Muhammad. This annual pilgrimage draws millions worldwide to Karbala in Iraq, but it's now starting to build on American soil. The event transformed a typical suburban roadway into a sea of black-clad marchers chanting religious slogans, waving flags, and carrying banners, a scene more reminiscent of the Middle East than the Midwest.
It's really crazy to see, and the vast majority of the media, completely ignores it.
Well, Donald Trump has done us an enormous favour in the West. Obviously, he's achieved one of the great geopolitical achievements in modern history, but it will also lead to an interesting social experiment, Megan, and that is this peace plan. And assuming it goes ahead, look, there are still some ifs and buts that will need to take place, but this looks like an extraordinary achievement. Do we think that these sorts of marches will stop? Do we think that the pro-genocide crowd will suddenly, pack up and go home? And my guess is no. My guess is because these protests that we've seen over the last 2 years have never been really about Palestinian statehood. They've never really been about the plight of the Palestinians. They've been about, A, the destruction of Israel, and B, more generally to that clip, the destruction of Western civilization. So what I think we will see, even if they get absolutely everything that they have asked for, and from what I can see in that peace plan, they're getting pretty much everything that they have asked for, you will continue to see these types of protests. And so therefore, the only answer in my mind is that countries like the UK and the US need to fundamentally rethink how they approach immigration, because you're not going to be able to change the minds of people who are radicalized and who from a very young age have a particular ideology which is antithetical to the West. And if I may just add one more thing, Megan, it is extraordinary that some of these countries don't get that. So on the same day of that Yom Kippur attack that we mentioned, there was a Labour minister, Labour being the equivalent of the Democrats, who said, we're proud to announce that we've just let in a new wave of Gazan students into the UK on scholarships to study in university. Wow. Now, I think it's a tragedy that those people have been brought up in a society which is run by Hamas, where they've been indoctrinated in their schooling system to hate Jews from a young age, where there is obviously a two-tier society where women are treated as inferior. That's a tragedy. But at the same time, it's happened, and those people will, more likely than not, hold those views when they get onto campus at a UK university. Australia is also letting in Gazan refugees at the same time. So we've got to stop and think for a second, do we want to prioritise that warm and fuzzy feeling that you apparently get when you're helping the less fortunate in bad, war-torn parts of the world, or do we want to prioritise the safety and well-being of the citizens of the UK and the United States? I think for me it's a pretty obvious answer.
It's really crazy when you see it like spreading. You know, Dearborn is huge, Minneapolis is huge, and we're about to elect Zoran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City, whose wife is in the news today for celebrating the death of a Palestinian influencer who openly glorified the 10/7 attacks. And she openly wrote beloved Jafarawi on her Instagram story with 4 broken heart emojis on Sunday. She's super sad that this guy who absolutely loved 10/7 was killed. That's going to be our new first lady of the greatest city in the world, bar none, New York, as of November, if the polls don't change. Andrew Cuomo is now within some 10 to 12 points of Mamdani, but Curtis Lewa, the Republican, has 15% of the vote and will not drop out. I can't stand Andrew Cuomo at all, but I take him any day over this Zoran Mamdani, who's going to bring an entirely different set of values to office, some of which we've discussed here, some of which are just far left socialist values, but either way, he's about to ruin the greatest city in the world.
Yeah, and as someone who has lived in New York and will have the great privilege of living in New York, it breaks my heart to see it. It absolutely breaks my heart. But it also goes to show that there is this Western liberal, well-educated group of people who are willing to overlook all of the challenges that we've just mentioned in order to virtue signal. And part of me, Megan, and this will sound fatalistic, this will sound, we can argue about this, but part of me goes, we need to see the consequences of the actions of someone like a Mamdani for people to wake up and realise that you cannot just, put up placards and posters and virtue signal and everything's going to be okay. Elections have consequences. Ideologies have consequences. The same thing is going to happen and is happening in the UK. So sadly, what was that old H.L. Mencken quote? It was something like, democracy is the belief that people deserve, that people should get what they vote for and they should get it good and hard. And unfortunately, I think New Yorkers are about to be bent over and they're about to get it good and hard. And that's a democracy. That's what they're going to choose. And there are going to be consequences to that.
Wow. I mean, it's crazy to watch the open borders that we saw happen. I mean, Europe was doing it long before the United States did it under Joe Biden. And now you guys are living the real life consequences of it. And we're already having soft on crime consequences come our way. But this, the takeover of our major American cities by people who do not share our values. Some of the chants that we were seeing in Dearborn, Michigan over the past couple of years since 10/7 are death to America, not just death to Israel, death to America, as they walk by the open call to prayer. I mean, the things are changing rapidly, and unless people here find the stones to speak out the way you did on GB News over there, once you've gotten to your breaking point, we're going to get a whole lot more just like this. I'll give you the last word, Will.
Yeah, very simply, the only cure for cancel culture, Megan, is courage culture. And that is something which I think, and look, we are very fortunate that we have a platform in the media. Many people don't. And it is incredibly difficult. If you've got a job and you've got kids to feed and you've got a mortgage to pay, to go out and to say the type of stuff that we are saying. But I stress to everyone who has the ability to be able to do so, or the courage to be able to do so, either support people like Megyn Kelly or support, people who are standing up in the media and are saying these things, or remember that if you say something in a sensible way, a logical way, there's no need to be aggressive or whatever. But if you are logical, if you are sensible, and if you are principled, we can change this discourse. It will just require a bit of courage.
Let me tell you something. This is an area in which people haven't found courage. I think 5 years after Black Lives Matter, people have found some courage there. They've certainly found some courage on the trans front. But the Muslim takeover of major American cities and UK cities is something that people are still very reluctant to address head on. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I just did this long piece on Charlie and how people called him an Islamophobe, but he was very outspoken on this issue because he was an ardent Christian and he saw the conflict coming. And they've silenced Charlie, and I actually felt a need to stand up on this issue. And then I saw your piece, and I thought there's somebody actually doing it in his country too. And today, Will, I'm actually headed to the White House for the posthumous awarding to Charlie of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I just thought this is a perfect day to stand up for something that was near and dear to his heart. To your point, no one's asking for open maltreatment or mistreatment of anybody who happens to be Muslim, but people who are Muslim and trying to change the UK or the United States or Western countries into something that is more akin to Somalia or Gaza are going to have a fight on their hands. We do need to stand up to them and fight for the countries that we love. So that's what we're doing. Thank you for helping lead the way, Will.
No, thank you, Megan. I appreciate it.